All right, gang, and welcome back to Procreate. So in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and we're going to detail this bad boy out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to clean up the corners of this thing. And then we're going to do a time lapse where I show you how to go through and we're going to then clean up the rest of these petals in order to take the next step. So let's go ahead and create the stamen for this thing. All right, now the stamens are done pretty simply. You're going to come over here and you're going to add a new layer. You see I've added a layer 13. We're going to come over to brushes and I'm going to grab the organic and I'm going to grab the reed brush. I'm going to make sure my opacity is up and I'm going to make sure my size is pretty small. And now, over on my color wheel, I want to make sure that the palettes are selected. I'm going to grab a bright, stark white and I'm going to go ahead and add it to the palette. Now, that's kind of an off gray. We can get better than that. There we go. Let's make it a kind of a gray and a white. Perfect. So now we grab our brush. We grab our color. Let's start with this off gray. We're on the right layer. Let's get going. Now, there's no guarantee on how many of these you want to do, folks. You want to do as many of these as you need to do in order to get the effect. All right, I think I'm pretty good there with those. I'm in good shape. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some of the bright white ones, and I'm going to add just a few bright white ones, and I'm going to press a little bit harder on my reed brush to make sure that they actually show up the way they're supposed to. All right, perfect. That looks really good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my orange, and I'm going to add my orange to my palette. And now, with the orange selected, I'm going to come over here to zoom in, make sure my reed brush is still selected, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a little bit of orange on the tips. Now that's the drawback of digital art, folks. You can zoom in so far that you can overthink the entire thing, right? What I don't want is I don't want to make a huge orange tip. Right now it looks rather ridiculous, but you'll see when I zoom out that it's not really that bad. It looks bad because, well, everything's pretty large right now. Okay, now, when we zoom back out, we're actually in pretty good shape. All right, now let me show you a texture trick on this. Okay, so we're still on layer 13. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the dark pink that we had used from our palette, and I'm going to change my brush up. I'm going to go ahead and use the touch-up brush, and I'm looking at the short hair. Now watch what happens. We're going to go ahead and we're going to turn the opacity about halfway on this bad boy. We're going to keep the size relatively up, and with minimal pressure now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to gently glaze over this petal. You see what's happening with this? I'm adding just an ever so subtle texture to the cherry blossom. I really like this effect. If you don't have to use it. You can keep them super silky smooth. I like to add a little bit of texture to it. I think it adds a little something to the flower. All right, so that is how you go about doing a cherry blossom. Now, to finish up this video, and so you don't have to watch me draw for 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stop talking, and then I'm going to time lapse this thing. All you're going to watch me do is use the exact same layer structure for the petals. So we can come through and I can unlock my highlight layer, I unlock my shadow layer, I unlock my base layer, and I make sure that I have my palette selected. Now you're just going to watch me do the same thing. I'm going to use some advanced selection techniques, but you can use the exact same automatic selection technique that you've been using before. All right, so if you want to follow along, this is how I do it. If not, you're done. Let's go to the next lesson and I'll show you how to do the background on this bad boy. All right, folks, I'm going to stop talking now, and then you can just watch me draw, and I'll see you in a couple minutes. All right, gang. So that'll pretty much do it on how to go through and do these little leaves. Now what we're going to do in the next lesson, we're going to actually show you how to go ahead and do this background. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the last and final lesson. See you in the next one.